Card upgrades exist in Trials of Fire to make your deck better, and just like them, I'm here to help you improve. Today, I want to discuss which upgrades I feel you should be prioritizing, as with only a few chances to do so, you'll want to make the choices that give you the most bang for your buck. At the top of the list, we have any upgrade that reduces the willpower cost of your actions. Willpower reductions are exceptionally strong, even for the cards that just give willpower. With this upgrade, you are forced to spend fewer cards for resources, giving you more options to use with the willpower you do gain. Your characters will naturally draw only 9 cards per turn, so a card that costs 4 willpower to play represents a 5 card investment. 56% of your action for the turn is tied up in its use. Granted, you will usually draw at least 1 card per character that isn't strong for the given battlefield situation, but by reducing your costs, you'll have more options immediately, even if it's to hold a card for the next turn. A reduction in cost 0 willpower is exceptionally good, typically even better than reducing a high cost card by 1, as it requires no sacrifice on your part to use during battle. While not technically a card upgrade, this effect includes cards that give willpower discounts on subsequent plays, like Pommel Strike and Spark. They do require you to have an appropriate attack card in your hand to play alongside them, so these cards are of marginal use on a character dedicated to support, but they are powerhouses for your damage dealers. Don't overlook them in your deck design. Next up, we have upgrades that add a stack to named effects such as Chilled or Protected. I believe these upgrades are very good. There's a massive difference to having access to a shocked enemy next turn as well, or weakening the next 2 attacks from a boss. This does depend slightly on your strategy. Extra stacks of burning may not be useful if you are killing enemies before they get a chance to actually burn. Additionally, it is very difficult to capitalize on the damage potential of specific debuffs without holding cards, even with an extra stack. Like I said earlier, you don't get to draw very many cards per turn, so finding your 1 copy of Inferno in your 20 card deck is unlikely without much help. This is where cards like Quick Thinking come into play. Speaking of quick thinking, upgrades that allow you to draw or see additional cards from your deck are great, especially if the card itself is low cost or reduces the cost of the card that you find. These cards represent versatility, which increases the expected power of any hand that includes it. This is doubly true if the card already does something else that you want and has a draw on top of it, though the upgrades for these tend to be disappointing, like Quickstep. Combo-oriented decks will desperately need these kinds of enablers, even more than a standard deck. So if you are pursuing a more intricate playstyle, you'll definitely want to be equipping these cards and upgrading them at first opportunity. A plain +1 to damage is very weak for a single upgrade, unless it is a power, because powers will presumably apply this upgrade to more than a single attack. Still, an upgrade on Deadeye or Battle Stance, for example, while nice, doesn't offer quite the oomph that some of the upgrades higher up the list provide. Likewise, +1 to defense is even more marginal. Unless you are running a very specific type of build, defense will not help you destroy your enemies. Damage upgrades to AoE are better, but keep in mind how often you hit multiple targets. Your playstyle will influence what AoE opportunities you will see, though I believe the line attack is probably the most difficult to land on multiple targets overall. Don't forget that the attacks that state they hit targets within a certain range, or hit an additional target under certain circumstances, qualify as potential AoE. Some of these more reliably hit multiple enemies than the area attacks. Somewhat related, an upgrade to move is usually very underwhelming. Movement limitations when in close contact with the enemy vastly restrict your battle line once you engage, making any potentially upgraded move cards nearly worthless. Though cards that disregard this restriction are better choices, I'd still put them near the bottom of the list. However, the player will have to put these considerations into context. While class cards upgrade singly, an item will upgrade all of its cards at once. You may find it more beneficial to your current build to use your materials on an item that boosts 3 medium cards instead of a single card, though the key word here is may. The opposite is also true. Just because an item upgrades 3 cards doesn't mean it is necessarily better than making your gigantic Haymaker even stronger. You will need to consider how important the single card is to making your strategy effective, and how much better the card would be at filling that role with the upgrade. I know, it seems like I'm not giving you any information at all with this statement, but there's simply too many variables to be able to say definitively that one of these options is better than the other. You'll just have to experiment a bit to develop your touch.